The honest and ordinary man in front of me always comes to the shop to buy some sea snails. Not for any other reason but for his own pleasure.
No, a little lower. The ones on the bottom.
This honest and straightforward man is named Deuce, and he works as an aquarium cleaner at the marine park. The man, who doesn't like to wear clothes, accidentally became part of a live broadcast while working. Deuce easily lost his steady job just like that. To celebrate his unemployment, he could only come to the shop again and buy some sea snails from the shop owner. In order not to starve, Deuce had to take on odd jobs that others were unable to do, such as rescuing goldfish that had fallen into the toilet. The smell in the air and the overpowering sound coming from the next door made Deuce feel like something creepy was crawling on him. He followed the indescribable and increasingly rapid rhythm and ended up causing the toilet to explode.
If you like, I could stick around for a while. Every kid needs a father.
On this day, Deuce had a stroke of luck and received a big order to clean a fish tank in a mansion. The owner of the mansion was named Antoine, and he was a professional driver. He earned his fortune by working hard as a driver, and the mansion, worth billions, was filled with various antiques, all of which had witnessed bloodshed. Deuce couldn't understand how a simple driver like Antoine could earn so much money and attract so many beautiful women. Antoine smiled meaningfully and replied, "Besides being a driver, I'm also quite the ladies' man." During the day, he chauffeured wealthy young ladies, and at night, he enjoyed sweet and romantic moments with them.
How'd you get that job?
I just kinda fell into it.
I'm gonna kill my guidance counselor.
Compared to Antoine, Deuce felt both envious and jealous, and he wanted to join Antoine in something big. Antoine, being a practical person, said, "If you want to work with me, it's possible." Coincidentally, I am going on a business trip to Switzerland in a few days. Can you take care of these fish for me until I come back? After that, I'll take you on some big ventures.
I would be honored to care for your fish.
Before leaving, Antoine specifically instructed Deuce not to use his car and not to answer his calls. Deuce felt relieved when he heard this. So, even though he couldn't use Antoine's car, he figured there was no rule against using his bed. He found great pleasure in lying on the spacious 8-meter bed. To celebrate his impending rise to the pinnacle of life, Deuce went to the shop owner again to buy some sea snails.
You better give me some from the colder tank.
Content with his heart, Deuce returned to the mansion and decided to treat himself to an electric grilled sandwich, preparing himself for the high society life he would soon experience. While waiting for his food, he decided to hang himself upside down from the ceiling beam. He underestimated the strength of his own back and couldn't get down for a while. At the same time, the sandwich on the side started to glow and emit heat. Deuce couldn't get down from his ceiling-high position at home and was getting desperate. He used his body's inertia to try and grab onto the nearby fish tank to free himself. He successfully grabbed onto it, but the fish tank wasn't secured. With a loud crash, the fish tank and Deuce fell to the ground together. Deuce didn't have time to worry about the pain in his body and quickly grabbed an 82 Lafite from the refrigerator, not because he was thirsty, but because he needed it to put out the fire. After extinguishing the fire, he hurriedly picked up the valuable group of fish from the floor. Those fish never expected to encounter such an unfortunate incident. Then, Deuce called his good friend who sold fish tanks and learned that this particular fish tank was worth $18,000. Deuce was almost scared to death as he couldn't come up with that much money being broke, but compared to the valuable carpet on the floor, it was a drop in the ocean. If Antoine were to come back and discover it, Deuce's life would be over. Just when Deuce was in despair, a stranger woman called him on the phone.
My address is 1235 Radford Way.
Actually, I've got a lot of work to do here, still.
I'm naked.
Can you believe it? The overweight woman before him turned out to be Deuce's client for the evening. If Deuce had known what she looked like, he would never have come. To save his sore back, Deuce quickly lied and claimed to be gay, and a super gay at that. He thought this would deter his benefactor, but to his surprise, she became even more interested and offered to pay $600. And so, with his principles intact, Deuce managed to earn his first fortune through his own abilities. The introducer, Hicks, was extremely satisfied because no one had ever been able to tolerate this overweight female client before. He expressed to Deuce, Stick with me and you'll reap the benefits. However, Deuce had no desire to continue. The reason was simple. The greasy meal from the previous night would take a lifetime to digest. But Hicks wouldn't let Deuce go so easily. He threatened, "If you quit, I'll call Antoine and tell him everything you did at his place."
You got yourself a man whore.
As a result, Deuce was forced to endure a few days of peculiar experiences. Walking side by side with a 3-meter-tall female giant, the two couldn't fit into the same frame. Deuce, who was 8 meters tall, felt like a baby being carried in her arms.
Wait!
If it weren't for Deuce's skills, he would have been completely drained that night.
Oh, no one has ever touched my feet before.
The next morning, Deuce managed to escape from the wolf's den, exhausted, but he immediately encountered a pervert who proudly presented his big treasure and asked Deuce if he had ever seen anything so large. Deuce, mentally and physically worn out from consecutive challenges, couldn't hold himself together. He had anticipated that the third client would be even more demanding, but he never expected it to be a petite beauty. Deuce was initially delighted, thinking he would finally enjoy himself. However, he soon discovered that this woman had a condition called dirty mouth syndrome. She couldn't control her urge to curse and use foul language. Consequently, she had no friends and was afraid to socialize outside, as she would involuntarily offend others. Quick-witted Deuce instantly had an idea. He took the woman to a sports arena and asked her, "What do you think the opposing player looks like?" To his surprise, her string of profanities not only wasn't met with disapproval from the surrounding people, but she unexpectedly became popular. The sports arena needed someone like him. The third task was flawlessly completed. Deuce earned the appreciation of Hicks, who then assigned him an even more challenging mission. There was a pure-hearted woman named Kate whose friends had secretly purchased a service for her. Deuce's task was to go on dates with her without revealing his identity, and ultimately succeed in building a sweet and loving relationship with her. Deuce made special preparations and arrived at the designated meeting place. However, disappointment washed over him when he saw the person waiting for him. It turned out that he had made a mistake. He was supposed to meet the blonde beauty next door, Kate. Deuce was pleasantly surprised by the encounter with such a genuinely kind and normal woman. Not only was she beautiful, but she had a kind heart. Even during their dinner at a Japanese restaurant, she couldn't resist saving a pufferfish that had just escaped from contaminated water and ended up in the restaurant.
Too bad it's a freshwater fish.
The first date was a success, not only marking Kate's first ever date but also Deuce's first real date. He was reminiscing about the sweet moments of today when he was unexpectedly interrupted by a man. "Oh my goodness, isn't this the same weird man from yesterday?" As expected, he pulled out his little buddy and asked Deuce about the rash on his skin. The woman before him was Deuce's fifth client, the type who would fall asleep instantly after uttering a single word. Compared to the high-profile clients Deuce had served before, she was a piece of cake as long as nothing unexpected happened to prevent the client from accidentally drowning in the soup. Deuce thoughtfully tied up her hair. After these days of bloodshed, Deuce had earned enough money to buy an aquarium. He spent his spare time restoring the wet and expensive carpets, while enduring some kidney-taxing moments. Of course, he didn't forget about the fish food store owner. And that weirdo didn't forget about Deuce either.
I was at the precinct, and I really had to use the John. And it's pretty filthy in there, and I was in kind of a hurry. I didn't have enough time to use one of those, paper-ass gaskets. I was doing my business, and...
One day, Deuce received a new assignment, and surprisingly, it was to serve a prime-grade MILF. It's hard to imagine any male resisting such a situation. However, Deuce didn't want to earn money from her. The reason was simple. He had fallen in love with her and didn't want to sell his love for money.
Don't you find me?
Easy. I just can't do this.
Well, she's the lucky girl.
To celebrate another successful deal, Deuce decided to go to a bar for a good drink. He ordered a vodka but spit it out when he learned it cost $5. Instead, he asked for a $3 juice. The waitress didn't think much of it, brought him a juice, saying the total was $11.50.
I wish to cancel my original order of the martini and 2 olives.
You don't pay me now? I'm gonna take this swizzle stick.
To save his own life, Deuce willingly paid the bill. Boosted by the alcohol, Deuce decided to confess his feelings to Kate. However, He didn't anticipate that she already knew he was a gigolo. Deuce tried to explain that it had turned from fake to real, that he had genuinely fallen in love with her, but Kate didn't want to hear it and ignored him completely.
I want to see you again.
Me neither.
Deuce was devastated and went to the seaside alone to clear his mind. Unexpectedly, the annoying weirdo showed up again. It turned out that he was the husband of the woman Deuce had served the previous day. Anyone would find it intolerable, and the infuriated weirdo took Deuce to court, seeking to make him pay the price. Just as the judge was about to pronounce the verdict, everyone felt the ground shaking simultaneously. It wasn't an earthquake but the arrival of Deuce's former sugar mamas, who had come to help him prove his innocence. They declared in unison, "We met in this unfamiliar city, and it was love at first sight. We spent a night talking about love, but I realized that being alone and striving for success in a strange place isn't conducive to a relationship. I instantly woke up and gave him a breakup fee, disappearing from his sight. Some people are destined to be mere passers-by, leaving behind beautiful memories in our lives. Love doesn't always require staying together physically." Not only did the words resonate with the judge, but even I, the AI, found them reasonable and harmonious. Consequently, the judge declared Deuce innocent on the spot. Deuce didn't expect this turn of events and was amazed at how eloquently he had managed to convey such a pure and enduring love. He repeated the same words to Kate, expressing that he was just a sentimental young man hurt by his ex-girlfriend's monetary concerns. As long as she didn't give him money, their love would be pure and everlasting. Kate, a naive girl, couldn't resist such romantic lines and immediately cuddled up with Deuce. In the end, with the help of several so-called ex-girlfriends, Deuce successfully restored the mansion to its original state before Antoine's return. During this period, Deuce even made a trip to the fish food store and bought a few sea snails from the owner. The movie concludes.